it's just sad that that somehow was allowed to play out.
Yes, absolutely. It absolutely was, man. I think you just had so many bad decisions, dereliction of responsibility at so many different points in this story that this could have been prevented.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Welcome to the Lariat Lounge. This is the home of smart takes, hard hits, and real talk. I'm your host, Everson Godfrey, co-host Andrew Skeens. Skeener, the world of professional wrestling never, ever gets dull. If it's not the product, it is the world surrounding the product. And the world has been abuzz about the world of professional wrestling, from new outlets for new PLEs, cards being absolutely subject to change, and things that are happening outside of the world of WWE that has got the world talking about pro wrestling more than I ever anticipated. But let's start with, how are you doing, brother?
I'm doing quite well. Had just dropped a buddy off at the airport, had someone come in for 3 days, played some golf, went to a concert, had some fun, and coming to you live from the Lake Forest Oasis rest area between Milwaukee and the O'Hare Airport. So I'm as good as can be, brother. How about you?
Hey, listen, I am good. There's shuffling around at work, which is not abnormal, but some things that may be working out in my favor, which is absolutely abnormal. So
love that.
We're just hoping that things will, continue to go the way that they're going and that the outcome is great. But thank you for asking. But that's not what our listeners came here for. Now, actually, let me rephrase. If you did come here to hear how our day was when we do this at the top of the show, thank you, because we are human beings and it does matter. So we do appreciate it. But I know what you came here for. You came here for the good stuff. So, Skeener, let our friends know where they can tune in to catch all of the outlets that our good stuff goes to.
If you found your way here and are with us now, you probably know, but we're coming at you once a week, at least every week, on all your favorite podcast platforms, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify. Be sure to check us out there. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast. You'll be getting posts once a week, kind of listener polls, questions. Encourage you to reach out, get involved, tell us your thoughts about wrestling in general, the show, anything you want to talk about over there. If social media is not your thing, you can hit us up at the Lariat Lounge at gmail.com. That's where we are, and that's where we want you to be and you to get involved.
We appreciate you guys coming and checking us out. By the way, so thank you all for all of the support and the people who came out to tune into Lariat Lounge Live in the weeks that I was doing the live stream. Last week was that was such a ridiculous debacle of an episode. Like, it took so long trying to get the episode going. And I'm learning more about using the VPN for Netflix shows and the timing of those shows, because ironically they don't air the same time that the shows air in the States, which I'm not entirely sure how that works.
Are you talking about Raw?
No, I'm talking about SmackDown. So
I don't remember. So I caught SmackDown late. I know Raw aired live at like 3 p.m. Eastern.
It aired early. So wait, was SmackDown last week? Was that overseas as well?
Yes, SmackDown was Dublin.
Okay, so this makes more sense.
They were in Dublin, Ireland, and R-Truth ended up in Dublin, Georgia.
Yes, okay.
I believe.
Yes, that's right. Okay.
And
so
I don't know, because I was late to SmackDown anyways. So that I can't say, but I know Raw aired.
I wasn't.
Early.
I was on time for SmackDown, right? And when I got on to start the live stream and I pulled up Netflix, right? Netflix said that SmackDown was already on. So I was yeah,
depending on where you are allegedly located according to your browser.
Yes,
maybe
But you know what? If it was in Dublin, though, it may have aired early as well, because I was able to fast forward and rewind through that episode far more than I should have if it was live. And So I'm
I think
thinking
that's 5 hours ahead of U.S. Eastern time.
okay, so yeah, that show had been done. It had been done when I pulled it up. So that that answers a few questions. So
And then I popped in when I was on the way home from work, and I saw you speaking so eloquently about something with absolutely no audio coming out.
bro, it was one of the best live
I
streams
saw you
I've done.
I saw you just into it. You were emoting. I saw passion in your voice and heard none of it.
And it was absolutely ridiculous. So when I looked over at the mixer, I saw that I wasn't getting any feedback. And I was like, God, I should have seen that. I should have seen that. And I just didn't look. These growing pains, people. But it's okay because this was where this was going to be naturally wrapping anyway. And the fact that the shows air much earlier when in the UK means that there's no way I'm going to be able to catch those live streams anyway. So it is what it is. It was a nice little experiment, but we will absolutely be coming on to the Lariat Lounge live for the PLEs. So we will be getting together on Sunday for Clash in Paris. It's going to be a little early. So if you're tuning in and you want to catch us, make sure you get the time right for Clash in Paris because Skeena and I will be up there live streaming. We will be eating and chowing down. Maybe it's pizza. I'm sure it'll be pizza for me. I haven't had it in a little while.
It will be pizza for me.
Okay, excellent.
And we won't talk about how recently I'll have had pizza. Between now and Sunday, it'll probably happen. So it won't be that long for me.
Hey, dude, if you love pizza, you love pizza. I do too. I just save my moments so that when I get it, like it's game changing. But we will absolutely be together for Clash in Paris live streaming, guys. So if you want to tune in and hang out with us, make sure you get the time right for when it starts because we will be there from start to finish. But hey, enough with the fluff. Let's get to the stuff. So, Skeena, this week,
yes, sir.
We were just talking about Raw and SmackDown before we went on air. And this week had what some may consider filler. Not a whole lot of advancing with regards to stories that are being built towards or story arcs that are being built towards larger story arcs that are going into Clash in Paris, WrestlePalooza, and Survivor Series, which I guess those are our last 3 PLEs for the year.
Yep.
We did get a little bit of things that I did enjoy watching on the program. Did you notice our favorite act, the Wyatt Six, lurking in the background of like a bunch of different?
I did. They've been doing that for a couple weeks now.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah. Listen, neither one of us are huge fans, but if you're going to use them, right, just go ahead and lean all the way in. Like, lean more into the weird and less of the spooky, and you may be able to bring them back for me a little bit. You know what I mean? Like, make them the weird kids, and we can rock with that. But don't try to sell me on how spooky wooky they are, and that's why you guys are scared of them. Just let them be the weird kids, and I'm more down with it. So that could work for me. What do you think?
It's so hard to even put words or get words to my mouth from my brain because it's just like, I just don't care that much. Still,
I hear you.
It's bad. It's better. It's something. It's better than what they were doing. We'll see.
I mean, it could be something.
It all seems like such a dead end to me.
I agree.
Regardless of what they do.
You know what I keep trying to remind myself of sometimes, not necessarily that I'm trying to run cover for them, but what I do try to remind myself sometimes is, do you remember where the Judgment Day started?
I mean, yeah.
What they originally were?
I mean, it was just kind of Edge's heel vehicle.
But. Yes, but Edge was on some, like, I am the new manifestation of the Brood type stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's totally turned a corner into something completely different. And not that I think that the Wyatt Six, has the potential to do that, but I did not think that the Judgment Day in the beginning had the potential to turn into what it is. And I think that's what I'm kind of getting at, just trying to be a proponent of professional wrestling.
So we need to slowly get rid of all of these members and put all new people in to be Wyatt Six.
No, I think you keep the Wyatt 6, but you slowly phase out the stupid mask, and you know what I mean? And look, make them the weird kids. If you think about this like the quintessential high school movie, right? Where the Judgment Day are the cool punk kids, right? Then the Wyatt 6 could be the freaking weirdos. Like, let them be the freaking weird guys over in the corner, just being freaking weird. And it's like, that's why nobody likes to hang out with them, because those Wyatts, they're freaking weird. And let them occupy that space. And whatever they turn into, I don't care, right? But it's a better direction to take them in than the metaphysical spooky stuff, because it doesn't work. Like, you know who I see in that same vein, that whenever I see him on the screen, I'm kind of like, ugh, really? Aleister Black. His whole shtick does not land with me. And I don't... Well, I feel like
it's just so one note. Like, that. Yes. That's all he has is the shtick.
Yes.
Like, does he have anything beyond the entrance right now?
I mean,
bullying R-Truth?
Have we ever even seen him attempt it? Have we ever seen WWE even attempt to position him differently? No.
Not that I remember.
No. And I think part of it is because, I mean, what do you do with him that is not completely different than what he's currently doing? I think what you have to do is you'd have to put him in some sort of storyline with a female. I think if you put him in a storyline that has a female in it, you're able to kind of show a slightly different side of a man, right? And that's all you need is a second dimension, because he is one-dimensional right now. And I think that as long as he's this one-dimensional person, he's going to have the same pseudo-lackluster run like he had the first time he was here. Like, he's never going to bloom outside of the mid-card scene, being such a one-note character, right? But we saw that with Rusev. When Rusev was here the first time, Rusev was just the Bulgarian brute, right? And that's all he really was. But then you start exploring different things with him and Lana, and then you start getting more dimensions out of him. And then it turned into the whole Rusev Day thing, and he got a little more comical. You got angles, right? And though it didn't necessarily work out for him, ultimately in the end, he went way further with more shapes and dimensions to his character than he did as just the Bulgarian brute. And that's the problem, I think, with Aleister Black. And honestly, it's a problem with the Wyatts too. If the spooky wooky stuff is your thing, okay, fine. But they're certainly not multi-dimensional. They're kind of, that's their shtick, and they've got to figure out something to do with them, unless they just want space fillers. And sometimes that's what WWE has, is just people who fill space and wrestle matches and they play characters. And not everybody gets the 3D treatment.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, you were talking about Aleister Black never blooming outside the mid card. Maybe he's just not going to.
Maybe not.
And again, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. For my perspective, like, yeah, you always need someone in those spots. And does he have aspirations as a performer beyond that? Probably.
Sure.
But the presentation right now seems to have a built-in ceiling.
True. I don't disagree with that at all. That's actually a perfect way to put that. There is a built-in ceiling with that. And unless there is a conscientious effort to readjust or revamp his character, he's just going to stay there. And like you said as well, which I also agree with 1,000%, you need those role players. You need those people who are going to play that part as the other person in the dance. And yeah, that works. And everybody's not going to get that 3D treatment. It would just be nice, because it would just even flesh out those role players if they had some more depth to them. And you never know what star you got on your hands. You know what I mean? Unless you really stretch them. But, I'm giving you a lot of props, because I think you're landing on a lot of stuff right now. Like, there's also this element of, does he even have it? Like, not everybody has that.
Yeah, I haven't seen it yet.
No, I haven't seen an inkling of. Actually, you know what? That's not true. So before he left to go to AEW, when he was in WWE the first time, I can't remember what it was, but he had done something with Zelina. It wasn't on programming. It was something else. And it might have been something on YouTube. I can't remember. It might have been via Zelina, but
yeah,
you got to kind of see what the dude was like when he's not playing Aleister Black. And he's actually a likable dude. You know what I mean? Like he's kind of witty, and I was like, oh, okay. When I get to see this other side of him, he seems like a more interesting person, right? And it's kind of what we were talking about with Charlotte. It's like maybe what you can do with some of these people is just allow them to flesh themselves out a bit, even if it's not something that he introduces into his character. But if he has some sort of outlet where you can see the real person there, then he can play his act and people can like the person and they can deal with the character he plays. And maybe it'll lend something to that character. But anyway, I don't know why we're spending this much time on Aleister Black, but we're a character podcast. We love characters and stories. So I think that's why we sometimes get on these things with characters. Now I will say this, what I found very interesting, something we were talking about last week. Dude, I am liking what they're doing more and more with Bayley.
Yeah, it's really good. I like this. Like we said, I mean, we're interested to see where it goes because it's so different. It's new. It's a side we haven't seen, even though it's just all the sides of the character all at once, maybe.
Yeah.
In a way. But yeah, it's good. It's something, at least as far as I can remember, like WWE hasn't done a lot. Like you said, it's a risk. And risks are fun to watch people take.
Yes.
So it's fun when there's risky decisions being made in our entertainment mediums.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's good. And it's interesting too, because what we were talking about last time we were on seems to really be what they're leaning into, which is the different versions of Bayley that are in her head. Like it's like almost full on DID, right? Like there is the hugger Bayley and there's the role model Bayley, and they don't agree on who Bayley should be. And I'm just interested to see. Oh, that was loud. I'm just interested to see where they go with that, right? Like, what do we get as the Bayley who comes out of this? Do we get a Bayley who is wrestling between the two? Because it doesn't seem like she is slipping in and out of personalities, right? But there's definitely these two different aspects of her that are present. And then there is Bayley, who is in between the two of them. And she silenced them at the end of her segment this week. And I'm just wondering how they're going to go with this. Like, is she going to be hearing voices in her head, or is there going to be this melding of the two? I think the latter, I think the former, I should say, seems more interesting. Like Bayley being caught between the two of them.
Wait, okay. So the former or the latter? So which one of those two you think is more interesting?
So the former is Bayley being caught between the two personalities, right? And the latter is there is a melding of the two into something different.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm with you. I would rather, like you posed last week, it be she's almost got split personalities that come out in different ways. And I think that would be the more interesting than just the melding of the two, because I think that just gets us not back to just where we were, but kind of the same problem.
Yeah.
And that it takes away the part of this that we were excited about and find interesting.
Yes.
And find interesting. The hearing voices and different versions of past selves, I guess, talking to her, air quotes talking to her. That's what made this fun and interesting. So if you take that away, I'm almost back to, do I care that much?
Oh, exactly. And because that's what it kind of seemed like we got evolution-wise coming from Bayley as the role model from the hugger, right? Was just an evolution of the hugger into this new form. And I get it. But now we've given this character this layer of like, okay, maybe this was never an evolution of Bayley. Maybe this was this other Bayley that stepped into the picture and took over for a while. It's the more I talk about it, the more I'm like, dude, they've got some avenues to go down that nobody else on the roster is touching. And this could be really cool in a really nuclear way, or it could be really bad in a nuclear way. And they seem to be handling it really well right now. But we haven't seen Bayley in front of a crowd to kind of see where this goes. And I think that's intentional, right? You do these backstage vignettes to kind of flesh this story out. And then you also get the audience acclimated to what it is that they're about to see, so that when she comes out, they're already attuned to what's supposed to be happening. They're primed and they're ready for what gets delivered. Because there are so many ways that this could go horribly wrong. And taking the time and the necessary steps to make sure that if we're going to do this, this is going to go off as seamless as possible is the best way to go, for sure. For sure.
Yeah, I'm right with you there. We'll have to see. We'll see how soon they get it in front of a crowd, as you say.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's easy to do these stuffs and play with these things in pre-tapes, but how can you bring that multiple voice thing to a live interview and then to the ring? Like, how does that work? I'm interested to see.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the only thing that we have as reference, at least in my opinion as reference, is the template that the late, great Bray Wyatt, Wyndham Rotunda left, right? Because he did it in a way that was very tongue-in-cheek, but also did not insult the viewer's intelligence. And that was a very smart way to do it, right? Which is acknowledge that there are more than one individual that you could be running up against at any given time, and telegraph it in a way, right? Now, maybe you don't necessarily have to do this exactly the same thing with Bayley, but you can definitely lean maybe into this aspect of when she hits the ring. Sometimes it's like, it's very clear that what we're seeing is the hugger. You know what I mean? And then in this segment where maybe she was talking to Lyra, because Lyra's been hovering around this, talking about somebody needs to really check on Bayley. You know, there could be instances where Bayley shows up backstage, and who you're seeing interview Bayley right now, this person is clearly interacting with the role model. And maybe there is some disassociation between the two. That would be interesting to see, right? Like, does the hugger speak for the role model? And do either one of them speak for Bayley? Because Bayley seems to be able to hear them both, and they can hear each other. So it's going to be interesting. I will say this. However this turns out, I think WWE is approaching this in a way that is at least drawing conversation out of us. And
yeah, Bayley is at least something I am excited about and not meh about.
Yes, agreed.
For the first time in a while,
agreed.
which is sad, unfortunately. But I'd be lying if I said that wasn't where we were at a short while ago.
Though. You're right. I mean, and this is what it takes sometimes. You need a shot in the arm to get the conversation going around you, because I think Bayley is one of the greats, and I think she deserves to be in the spotlight. But nobody gets to be in the spotlight just because we think they deserve it. They've got to be doing something to garner the eye. And so I think they're doing it because, like you said, at least we're talking about her now. So, you know, that's definitely a good thing. So where are we right now with LA Knight, CM Punk, Jey Uso, and Seth Rollins going into Clash in Paris? Because I think if I'm remembering this right, because I'm having a hard time remembering a lot of Raw for some reason. But I feel like we're at the stage now where everybody is recognizing that it's every man for themselves. Am I right?
Seemingly, yes. With Punk attacked LA Knight, we've known they've been trading barbs.
Right.
I think the only loose, not even alliance, but not outright, opposition is Punk and Jey, right? Weren't they?
Yeah. It's coming back to me now.
I think they didn't get physical with each other. I'm trying to remember.
No, they did.
But I think they did? Okay.
Yes.
Then,
so I believe they were the last, I guess, holdout somewhat, because
that's what I remember.
Yes, he wasn't in an animosity type situation the way that LA Knight and Punk were. But I think Roman had spoke to him earlier that night, and he was telling him not to trust Punk. And then they got in the ring, and Punk attacked LA Knight. And then I think maybe either Punk pushed LA Knight into Jey, or no, LA Knight and CM Punk were arguing with each other. Jey tried to break them up, and I think LA Knight pushed him. And then Punk pushed LA Knight into Jey. And then I think Jey laid out LA Knight with a super kick. And then Punk and Jay were standing there with each other, and Punk was like, "Oh, all right, good." And then he laid Punk out with a super kick, and I think that's where we left.
I don't remember it, but I'm going to trust you. I'm going to be honest. I watched that very late Monday after the concert, and that's at the end of the show. And yeah, I don't have much more memory of it. I remember Seth like laughing as they were all fighting.
Yes,
amongst themselves.
He was holding Braun Breaker back because he was telling Braun Breaker that they're doing the work for him and that they're self-destructing, so to speak, as if they were an alliance or somewhat. But yeah, I think everybody got their licks in because we're heading into a fatal four-way where there are no alliances here. So
correct.
That need to be laid out pretty well. So we're there with that. Roman and Bronson had a bit of a brawl where they had to get separated.
Another attempted shoe theft.
Yeah, I think he did try to steal some shoes, but he was unsuccessful this time. He could not get them off. All I noticed was that he was leaving the ring and he did not have an additional pair of shoes, but I'm assuming there must have been a struggle and he couldn't get them off. Roman must have laced them up all the way this time. And
they didn't resolve that, did they? But I remember just laughing at that. He tried to pull them off and couldn't.
I didn't even notice that he tried to pull them off and couldn't get them off. But I guess he was just unsuccessful. But Roman said he was going to get his shoes back. So I'm assuming he's going to beat Bronson Reed at Clash in Paris. And he's going to take his J's back.
That's what I see. I see no reason to not have that happen. I mean, unless you have really, really big plans for Bronson, but I don't think losing a match to Roman Reigns really hurts you that much.
No, because for certain, I'm sure that Seth Rollins is not dropping the world championship in that fatal four-way. And Bronson Reed is competing against Roman Reigns at Clash. And I have no reason to suspect that Roman loses that match. But is Breaker who is Breaker wrestling? Is he wrestling anyone?
Clash in Paris? I don't think so.
I don't think he is.
Unless I'm forgetting something. No, trying to run through it in my head.
I don't recall. And I don't think there's anybody who he's been going up against that's got a free dance card on Sunday.
No, because we only have five matches right now. So
we got the fatal four-way.
We got fatal four-way for the title.
Yep.
Bronson Roman.
Right.
Cena and Logan Paul.
Right.
Becky and Nikki Bella.
Okay, that's 4.
And then the Everson special. The Sheamus versus Rusev and the
good old-fashioned Donnybrook match.
Yep.
You know, I heard somebody say with regard to that match, yo, that's a little messed up that they would name the match an old-fashioned Donnybrook match because they're only doing that because Sheamus is in it. Like, if there was any other match, it'd just be a street fight. But because he's Irish, you're going to call it an old-fashioned Donnybrook?
Correct. This is Sheamus's Punjabi prison.
True, which is what, just a Hell in a Cell?
No, the Punjabi prison was a whole thing. You don't remember that?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
They had one. I think there were 3 Punjabi prisons. No, they made like a whole multiple cages out of bamboo, essentially, or alleged bamboo.
I do remember that.
For Khali, and then Jinder got one during his run.
Okay,
where Khali came down and interfered.
But you know what, though? Even with that, at least they went with a slightly different gimmick. Like, I have no reason to what is a Donnybrook match? I
believe it's a street fight.
Okay, that's kind of what I thought, right? It's just a street fight, but they're calling it a Donnybrook match because he's Irish, right? But that would be like me being a wrestler, and instead of having a street fight, they're like, nah, we're going to have a hood fight match. Like, come on, dog.
I mean, yeah.
What are we doing, man? Like, is that necessary?
Well, I think you're just guaranteed to have a shillelagh in your Donnybrook.
Well, you know what?
That's the differentiator.
Is that when you take that trash can out, instead of having regular things in there, you may have those regular things, but there's going to be a shillelagh somewhere in the match.
Yeah,
bet.
Pretty much.
Bet. If I ever get into a street fight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hide a shillelagh somewhere in the match, right? And when I start to lose, I'm going to find it. And then I'm going to go to the back and be like, hey, I didn't sign up for a freaking Donnybrook. I signed up for a street fight. This is unfair. And I think that the match should be called off because you put me in a position that I did not sign up to be in. So this Donnybrook match is the 5th match. So no, Braun Breaker does not have a dance partner. So I think absolutely what we're going to get is a Seth Rollins faction division run-in that is going to prevent anyone from beating Seth in this fatal 4-way. At least by Bronson and Braun. You probably have Roman come back out at some point, maybe. I don't know. They'll be out. No, actually, they won't be outnumbered if Roman comes out because it'll be.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to play a factor in one or both of the division matches. We obviously know that. It'll just be interesting to see where he fits in. And is this how we're gearing up for, as we've been talking about, Survivor Series?
That's what I'm thinking because that's what I'm wondering, right? Because Survivor Series is I can't remember. Are those teams, are they 4-man teams or are they 5-man teams?
I believe both have happened in the past.
Okay.
Traditionally, it was 5. I'm pretty sure we've done 4v4 war games too.
Okay. So, because last year it was.
Yeah, because we did. Well,
are we questioning the 4?
No, I'm pretty sure we've had 4v4 ones. I'm just trying to think last year.
Last year was the
last year was
that,
definitely 5s.
Yes.
Because we had Roman, Usos, Sammy, and Punk.
Yes. Roman, Usos.
Maybe we haven't done 4v4. We've definitely done 4v4s because we had oh man, there was a War Games match and I forget who it was against, but it was just Roman, Usos, Sammy, or maybe Solo was in that.
That was the Bloodline.
I'd have to look it up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe they've only done 4v4s in NXT because I know NXT used to do 4s. Maybe they've only done 5s on the main roster. I know it's 4 in NXT because the Undisputed Era had one with when Bobby Fish was there.
Yeah,
so that was those 4. I think that was the Pat McAfee match. I don't know. Well, I think we're getting stuck on a detail that may not matter. They'll do however many they have, but 4 or 5. Regardless, somebody, at least one of them's got to get more people, and that's the vision.
Yes, they're going to need at least one person. Right? Because that fatal 4-way match, I think that fatal 4-way match is going on. I think Breaker and Bronson maybe come out to the ring to cost whoever's going to win that match the match, and Seth gets to retain because there is no DQs. Right. Roman comes out there and now you've got the 4-man pairing of Punk, Knight, Jay, and Roman, and the Vision are outnumbered. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they need to introduce someone. Honestly, Clash in Paris would not be a bad place to do that. Like, if you're going to bring in a new person for the Vision, they need a little bit of runway before you go into the War Games match. And I think it's probably a good place to do it, particularly because we're also losing any women's championship match at Clash. So it opens the door for something big to happen. I don't see why you couldn't do it here. It seems like it would make a lot of sense. You know, you've got everyone in the building. You've got all the components there.
Yeah, I think so. But we've still got, 2 months essentially to Survivor Series?
True.
Do you do it yet? I don't know.
If it was me, I certainly, seeing as how we now have WrestlePalooza in between now and Survivor Series, I don't think I'd do the new reveal of a new member of the Vision on Raw. I mean, you could. I mean, actually, that's where they've kind of unveiled everyone, right? Because Seth got with Heyman at WrestleMania. And then the Raw after Mania is when Breaker came on. And then Bronson came on a Raw. I don't know, maybe they do it on the Raw after. I mean, that's possible. Maybe they let that match just go off without a hitch. I don't know though. It doesn't make sense because Breaker ain't got nothing to do.
I mean, I think he gets involved. I just don't know how far we go down that road because we got essentially 2 months and maybe another PLE's worth of matches for everyone to do, and I don't know. I think we're maybe still a ways away from setting the table for this is who it's going to be versus this is who it's going to be, essentially.
Yeah.
I think we'll wait to lock in the teams for a bit still.
Okay. So separate question here. Do you think that WrestlePalooza becomes like a full-on PLE, or is it more like a special presentation type event, like a Saturday night's main event?
I think it will be closer to Saturday night's main event.
Okay.
At least now.
Yeah.
I think it, because it just seems so, and obviously I'm just basing this on nothing, because I don't know any of this. It seems like it was more, kind of just conceived recently.
Yeah.
And that, you would think they had story and character and kind of like storyline tent poles built more for Survivor Series in a way. And that this one will be held up, or WrestlePalooza will primarily be held up by what we're still assuming is John Cena and Brock Lesnar.
Sure. Because they haven't announced that yet.
I think it'll be Saturday. No, it's just John Cena and a wrestler he hasn't faced for over a decade.
Which is Brock Lesnar.
Or Tensai, or Alex Riley.
True.
Or
Also true.
Yeah.
Can you imagine?
Hasn't wrestled Khali in a while.
If WrestlePalooza is announcing the main event and it's freaking John Cena and Alex Riley. Dude,
say it to his face.
I'm not saying anything to his face. That song, I remember that song for being such a bad entrance song. Like,
wasn't good.
It was certainly not good. I didn't think it fit him either. Like, I don't know. It just made him seem troubled in a way that didn't fit his character. And I don't know. I never cared for it, but it's more than likely Lesnar. But we haven't gotten anything. Obviously, they're not trying to overshadow Clash in Paris. So,
we did get, as SmackDown went off the air. Remember, Logan attacked John Cena right after Aldous had come up to John Cena and said, "I got to tell you something about Brock Lesnar," or something, or he said, like, Brock said this, or like Brock said, and then it was the attack. So
yes.
They're leaving open that thread for, I think they want us to question, is Brock Lesnar going to show up in Paris?
I was thinking that too. Did you see that Logan missed him the first time?
I didn't. I did not see that.
But you heard him? Did you hear about it?
No.
Okay, so they had to reshoot that scene because it happened same. Yeah.
No, I didn't.
So what aired on Netflix replay of that was not what they originally aired live. And the scene happened exactly the same, except Logan comes up and he swings and he just clearly misses John. And he came up a solid 4 inches short of even looking like he connected. And John kind of went down and the show kind of cut off the way it did. But apparently they reshot that. And when it re-aired on like the video on demand, he connected with him. But that was, I thought that was kind of hilarious because I didn't see the one where he missed, but I saw it online later. And I was like, oh, you know what? That's the reason why they got truck delays, because they had to catch that one because they're not like, this isn't going on Netflix like this. Not after this live show. They're not going to, no. But they could be foreshadowing Brock in Paris. And if he shows up in Paris, all he's going to do is cost Cena the match with Logan, because it's not like he's gonna have an impromptu match at Clash. Like I don't see them overshadowing Logan's match with him in that way.
No. But here's the thing. I'll go ahead and break into it now since we're touching on this. I am interested in the Cena Logan match. We talked about it previously that we're interested in a match, but something I didn't touch on that has come to me now is I think now that Cena doesn't have the title, now it opens up more of a possibility that he's putting guys over, that he's losing these matches. Because we knew he wasn't losing the title to CM Punk in Saudi Arabia.
Sure.
And he wasn't losing the title to Ron Killer.
Right.
But, like, what's it matter now? Maybe Logan Paul beats him and gets this huge victory, and it's a seminal moment for Logan Paul. I think the possibilities that moving the title away from him before the end has opened up is something I just really thought about recently.
Sure.
Which is another positive, I think.
Okay, I hear you. But are we going to go back to what Cena was prior to his heel turn? Because that's what we got from Cena. He just lost everything.
Seems like it. I know, seems like it. And I don't have good answers for that. And it's back to, like, I can dwell on that, or I can just try to get what I can out of it.
Sure.
Maybe sometime later down the road, somebody talks and tells the story about how that comes about. But it definitely, what are we, 2-3 weeks out of that, still seems very abrupt.
Sure.
And
no, I hear you.
Very abrupt and less, well thought out than some of the other beats of this story were.
Yeah,
I always go back to, let's just call it how it is. It all smells to me like something has happened, that there was supposed to be more Dwayne and Travis Scott in this than we have got, because that's certainly the way they set it up.
Yeah.
At the very least, Dwayne.
Yeah, I agree with you on that, right? I definitely think there was the quote-unquote pivot that took place after Mania, where it's like, okay, we're definitely not getting any Rock or Travis Scott after Mania, right? And so they made some pivots, they made some changes maybe, and they've told a different story. Just in my opinion, based on where we are now, I think the story they've been telling after Mania is not one that they were ever actually including The Rock or Travis Scott in anymore. So if there's a feeling that there's something that's missing here, maybe it's the remnants of the thing that we missed earlier, and these kind of chickens are coming home to roost. Though I'm not entirely sure if I feel the same way about that. Like, I think that what we're doing right now that would make the most sense would be to have Lesnar show up in Paris and cost Cena the match. Somebody who's dastardly like Logan is not going to lose anything from getting a victory in a sleazy way. As a matter of fact, I think that it hurts him more in a weird way if he just won a match clean over Cena. It doesn't work with his character. Like, he could brag about it, sure, but the audience isn't going to care. And I think that they're going to boo him not for the reasons that you want them to boo him. Like, let them be a part of the story in booing him, that he is braggadociously going on about how he beat the greatest of all time, John Cena, when we know that Lesnar helped him, right? And that works for his character, and it does a great job, in my opinion, of setting up Lesnar and Cena for WrestlePalooza. Because I am just of the mindset that I think that's who he's wrestling at WrestlePalooza. And I think it does a great job for building up some heat for that, particularly because we have not freaking gotten any Lesnar since SummerSlam. We got a few mentions of him, right? But he needs to show up and make another big impact, right? He showed up at the end of that match at SummerSlam to show Cena that he's here. He makes his next appearance at Clash in Paris, the next PLE, right, to cost Cena the match. And then you have their match. It seemed like a natural escalation without having to have Brock on screen. And I think it works for all parties involved to kind of do it that way. But when you reminded me of that, I'd kind of forgotten that Adam Pearce had said something to Cena about that at the end of the show. But that makes a lot of sense, though, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's probably the likely course of events. I mean, I don't see why else you tease the Brock thing like that unless he's showing up, right, or something else big is happening. But the worst, like, it would kind of be weird, at least where I sit now, one SmackDown left before Clash, because if Brock shows up here on SmackDown in a few days, this obviously doesn't apply.
Sure.
But to say that and then people wait for Brock and then the show ends without Brock, you're like, well, what were we talking about? And then another surprise could alleviate that. But as it stands now, with one SmackDown to go, I think what you're saying is probably the likely course of events. Is that Brock Lesnar's presence in one way or another, be it physical involvement or not, lets Logan Paul win this match, probably. And then we go on to WrestlePalooza with Brock and Cena.
Yeah. Yeah, I that's what I think, too. I think if there was anything that would make me question any of that, the only thing that would make me question it would be what would have more impact? Would it be more impactful for them to kind of allude to this idea that, hey, this news about Brock, and then here comes the punch from Logan? Or if Logan and Cena are having their match and then Lesnar's music just hits and he, you know what I'm saying? And then he shows up. I think you announce it, obviously, because it drives more attention to Clash in Paris. And I think that from a storytelling perspective, I think that it serves better chapter by chapter in a story to escalate just a little bit, right? Where we had a surprise show up at SummerSlam after the match. Then his next appearance gets alluded to slightly. And then he shows up to interfere in the match and cost him the match. And then maybe between there and Survivor Series, right? Or no, it's not Survivor Series, WrestlePalooza. Between then and WrestlePalooza, maybe we get an appearance from Brock, you know what I'm saying, on the programming. That would be a way, I think, to have WWE maximize Brock's presence without just throwing him on screen so much. Because I think that for all intents and purposes, I truly believe that WWE is willing to throw Brock up there and cash in on Brock for WrestlePalooza, as well as the fact that he's going to be a big draw against Cena. But I think they're also aware of the backlash that happened. And though they're not going to acquiesce to the fans' complaints, I think that it would be smart to utilize his appearances well. On top of that, Brock ain't a full-timer anymore, and I'm sure having him on screen every time is like the biggest aspect of your budget for any show that he's on. Like, I'm sure his asking price per appearance right now is not contractually obligated by WWE, right? He ain't under contract with them right now. I think they're probably paying him per appearance, and he's probably pulling a hefty figure. And so, you know, like with a special effects budget, it's like you try to pull back on it when you don't have to use it. Maybe they're pulling back on that budget. Like, hey, let's use him sparingly and strategically so we can get the story told and not completely blow the budget on multiple Lesnar appearances. And this seems like the best way to do it is to kind of drip feed this thing, right? And as the saucer fills up with water, we're getting a gradual thing of more Brock without having to just really open the floodgates and, you know, oversaturate the product with Brock. But we'll have to see. We don't have much longer though, because we got to the end of the week to see if they get any type of illusion. Soon. Yeah, and then we'll see on Sunday, you know, what we get from Brock. It's sad though that we're not going to get any women's world championship anything at Clash. And I'm struggling to understand the logic behind it. Like what Adam Pearce said on the show, just, I don't know. For as quickly as they throw things together kayfabe wise, it doesn't make sense that they have to call this match off for Clash so that they can figure out who the number one contender is going to be. But he's got someone in mind. And it doesn't make any sense. Why wouldn't you just do the match at Clash in Paris if you've got someone in mind? That makes no sense.
Well, you're right. In kayfabe, it makes no sense. Yeah. I think the answer is because they don't have anyone in mind and they don't have no clue what the hell to do. So they're going to buy some time, which I get. I understand that. It would have been quick to throw something together. I mean, we threw together a plausible scenario, but maybe they didn't want to do that. Maybe they didn't want to have any of those people win that qualifying match right now. Maybe they didn't like any of those possible participants losing a qualifying match. Maybe they don't know who they want to win the title yet.
Sure.
So you have a title match. Someone's got to win the title, most likely.
Yeah.
So
it just
if
seems
they
like
aren't ready to know who that is, I get it. But I understand where you're coming from. You're right. Is if you had someone in mind, why wouldn't you do it? Because it seems, but again, this gives the Stephanie Vaquer character angles to play with in the future. That, hey, I won this title shot, and then you put it off, and you screwed me. So there's at least some ammo there for something in the future, if and when they want to use that.
Listen, I think they can definitely use it. And I understand your point that you're making too, right? Which is they may not have certain aspects of this story ironed out the way they want. They're definitely making a pivot. So I get that part. I guess when you say, though, that you've got someone in mind, kayfabe or not, right? That rules out certain things that I think you'd be putting into play. If you've got someone in mind, there's not going to be a tournament, right? There's not going to be a qualifying match. You've got someone in mind, which means they are the singular person that you got in mind to challenge for this title. It doesn't break down between more than one person, so there's no need to have a qualifying anything. So I don't know. I guess in my mind, I'm just like, why put it off if you've got someone in mind? I mean, and mind you, this is a Raw branded championship. So we're not obviously getting any more story development in that vein before Clash in Paris. Unless, of course, whoever it is he's got in mind is a SmackDown superstar. But yeah, I have no idea who that could possibly be.
Yeah, you don't know, because obviously they don't know, because if they knew, we'd be seeing the match. So at least that's what I think.
Yeah. So your guess is that they just kind of said something to further the scenario that was playing out on screen, but in reality, they have no idea who they're actually going to reach out to.
I don't know. We'll have to see. But I think, again, the one good thing is that this gives Vaquer an angle to play with, to be frustrated about her plight if they so choose to use that.
Sure. So let me ask you this. If you had to pick someone, who would you pick? Now, obviously, you can't pick somebody who is currently occupied in the story. And let's not assume that if this is going to play out, that this is going to wait all the way until Survivor Series, right? We've got, like you said, we got 2 months between now and Survivor Series. I don't think they're going to put it off that long. So if you had to pick someone who is not currently affiliated with the story, who would you pick?
Well, but you say not currently affiliated, but I think in 2 months there will be some people unaffiliated with stories.
Okay, like who?
If you're still having Stephanie Vaquer win, I think a good opponent for her would be Nikki Bella.
Okay. So Nikki Bella comes fresh off of a loss to Becky Lynch, but gets a world championship match as a consolation.
No, I think she will. You could do some sort of qualification angles.
Okay.
And get there that way. But I think that would be someone who wouldn't be hurt by the loss, and I think I don't know. The more you press on me, the less I have reasons. That's just my guess.
No, I hear you, dude. I hear you. If I had to make a guess, just with anyone, I would say maybe a returning Liv Morgan. I feel like that's the only thing that makes sense, right? Because she wasn't champion when she got injured. Was she? No, because that title was between Io
she was a
and
tag team champion.
Okay, so maybe you have her compete against a returning Liv Morgan for that championship. And I just keep going back to what Pierce said, right? And I'm trying to keep within the confines of making the things that they say on the show make sense. Like if I was just going just willy-nilly here, right? I would think, he said that, but the best idea, in my opinion, would be to have some sort of qualifier, whether you have some sort of battle royal or something that could introduce the idea that someone who's unlikely could be put in that spot, whether they win it or not, right? I think that's the better angle. But the fact that he said that he's got someone in mind, to me, removes a qualifying match off the table. And so that means you have to have someone. The only person I could think of who's either not a champion currently or is prominent enough to be put in that position to really challenge her is either a returning Trish Stratus, which I don't know if I'd want to see that, or a returning Liv Morgan. And I think the pop for a returning Liv would be great. You just have to hold that off, right? Like you'd have to hold that off. Like let's say they did it at WrestlePalooza, which they haven't announced anything but John Cena's wrestling a ghost from his past, right? If you bring Stephanie Vaquer out there and then Liv's music hits, right? And she's in this match, but then it's like, you get this big pop for her return, and like, do you serve her an L? Like that would seem like a misguided way to do that. So I don't know. I mean, they haven't given it. They haven't.
It's so you're right, and if you do it at Survivor Series, it's so far out.
Yes.
That,
why are we talking about it now?
I mean, I think that may be, or do you throw something like that on WrestlePalooza and give WrestlePalooza something else?
I think you throw it on WrestlePalooza, right? And you give it something else. I think right now what I'm the most on the fence with is the who, right? Who could that be? I don't know anybody in NXT right now that would be a viable call up, because see, that would be something that if you had a viable NXT call up, that could be something where them taking an L and losing would not hurt them one bit. Because it's a huge recognition thing to get brought up and like your first real match is for the championship. But that would also make zero sense with regards to anyone else on the roster. So, but this is why I feel like if we're having to stick to what Pierce said, it makes it such an undesirable situation. Like a qualifier works so much better because it just gives reason for people who are in current stories to step outside of their story to challenge for this title, right? Whereas if you've got someone in mind, who'd you handpick someone? Like, and if you did, it's a problem. So something popped into my head, right? And I was that would be perfect. And then I'm like, but it's the same thing with the Liv Morgan. Because I was thinking, you know who it's going to be? Bianca Belair. But then I thought, how do you serve Bianca an L in a championship match coming back? Because she's a big enough name, right? To where, maybe you do just pick her to be her opponent for the vacated title, right?
What about Jade? I mean, can we throw Jade out there?
She's currently in a feud.
I know we got Tiffany and Nia. And
she's still orbiting that world title, the WWE Championship scene. Right. But I'm thinking what if Stephanie doesn't win? If we think about it, that's the most reasonable answer, right? She's not going to lose her popularity if she loses her first world championship match. Most of the people who are big names in the women's division didn't win their first world championship match. Rhea didn't. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the first person that came to my mind because I remember the match she had against Charlotte.
Not?
No. She wrestled Charlotte in her first main roster championship match. She didn't beat Charlotte the first go round.
Did she not?
No, I feel like she wrestled Charlotte more than once.
I thought she lost the NXT title to Charlotte, but then won the women's title from her.
I think she lost the NXT championship to Charlotte. Wait, how would she have lost the NXT championship to Charlotte?
Is that not who lost the NXT title to Charlotte? At COVID Mania? I
mean, so Charlotte went back down to NXT and was NXT champion for a while?
Yeah, right? I'm not making that up, right?
I'm not saying you're making it up. I just don't remember. Don't remember.
Yeah, this is one I'll have to look up.
But I'm thinking...
I'll look both these up.
Yeah,
buy us time.
Sure.
Buy us time.
To my recollection, I don't remember Rhea Ripley winning her very first title match on the main roster. I don't remember her winning that. So if that is the case, Stephanie Vaquer is a big enough star, a hot enough star to put her in her first main event match. I'm not main event, her first title match, for her to compete in it and not win. I think if you put her, go ahead.
I got rough news for you.
Okay.
Night 2, COVID Mania. Charlotte Flair defeated Rhea Ripley for the NXT Women's Championship.
Okay.
And also, Rhea Ripley debuts on Raw March 22nd, 2021, before WrestleMania 37.
Okay.
Challenges Asuka for the title.
Okay.
And beats her for the title at WrestleMania.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So though that is the case, do we think that Rhea Ripley would have lost steam if she didn't debut and beat Asuka at WrestleMania? I don't think so. I don't think she would.
Probably not.
And that's my thing, right? Stephanie could be the odds-on favorite to win this, right? And if they were to have done some sort of tournament, I would have still felt that way. But the more I talk about this, right, and the more I'm kind of hinging all of this on what Pierce said, right? If that is true, you have a hand-picked opponent. Who do you hand-pick to lose? Like he could pick anybody, right?
Nikki Bella, for example.
Yeah.
That's why I think if someone's going to lose, Nikki Bella would be a good loser in this situation.
So she catches 2 L's back to back.
Yeah, but she can get some W's in the meantime that qualify her for the opportunity to catch the L from Stephanie.
True, but if she's already picked, she doesn't have to qualify. Like, that's the thing, right? If she is the person who Pierce has in mind.
Okay, so you're banking. Okay, I get what you're saying. It's
like if he's got someone picked. And I know we're not going to figure this out.
I don't know.
But I'm just saying, like, if he's got someone picked, right, then she doesn't have to qualify. She's currently in a feud with Becky for a championship match. Correct. With a championship match. So that would mean that Pierce has her picked while she's already coming. Like, let's say none of this is scripted, right? And all of this is up in the air. We have no idea who's going to win or lose matches, right? Nikki Bella could essentially win the IC championship, right? And then be the hand-picked person to challenge Stephanie Vaquer for the vacated women's world championship. So there's a possibility she could walk away as Nikki 2 belts. I don't see that being something that would ever even be positioned, right? Unless Nikki loses to Becky. But if Nikki loses to Becky, right, why have you handpicked someone who is about to catch an L, or you didn't know was even going to catch an L? That's all it makes me think it's not going to be Nikki. But
the handpicked, like that line from Pierce it kind of throws a wrench into all this, because
it really does.
Who's he thinking about that isn't already currently in an entanglement, as some would say?
Yeah.
And I don't really know.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, it would have worked so much better if he hadn't said that line, because you could open up some sort of qualifying anything, and it would have made more sense for a whole plethora of people. But he's kind of truncated this to one singular person, and it makes you have to wonder who, right? Who could that be? And all the names that we would think about are currently occupied. So I'm like, listen, I am always a holdout for something that is out of the blue, right? Like, spoil me with a big pop for some returning star. I just have no idea who that would be. But we'll see. We'll find out soon enough. It won't be at Clash in Paris, unfortunately, but, we'll figure out soon enough. But I've been holding this to the end because this is definitely something that is not in the realm of WWE, even though the company was affiliated in some kind of way. It was in no way representative of WWE or its product, right? And
the dirt sheets really wanted you to know that WWE had ties with them. I'll tell you that.
Oh, of course they did. Of course they did. And listen, I have not necessarily been in the dirt sheets, but I have been kind of absorbing more than what I thought I was going to absorb of people who are talking about this. And listen, I am going to quote our good friend who showed up in the chat one night for one of our lives. There are so many brain dead reactions out there, even ones that have, in my opinion, a decent standpoint on the situation. I can't quite understand how there has been so much coverage around this, right? And a lot of the coverage comes from the man himself because he live streamed the whole thing, all of it. Why some people still cannot get the story straight. And you know what I'm saying? And what happened? Why are we still speculating on what happened when you can see the whole thing? But for the uninitiated, so what we're talking about is the Knox Pro Wrestling Raja Jackson incident. If you have no idea what any of that stuff is that I just said, I don't blame you. I don't think a lot of people knew outside of the greater Los Angeles area what Knox Pro Wrestling was prior to 5 days ago. And as far as Raja Jackson, if you don't know who that is, I don't blame you either, because a lot of people didn't know who he was either outside of small MMA circles who are very familiar with his father. Raja Jackson is the son, one of the children of former UFC fighter Quentin Rampage Jackson, who is very well known. And Knox Pro Wrestling is an independent wrestling organization that's based out of, I believe it's Los Angeles. And the incident in question that has seemingly got a decent portion of the sporting world abuzz, and for good reason, is an incident that happened last week where Raja Jackson, and listen, guys, I'm about to explain this way more accurately than some of these people. And I swear if I could remember this dude's name, Skeena, I'd call him out by name, first and last name, because he annoys me with the takes that he has. And to me, he seems like so much of a mark for a lot of things in wrestling. And he just generally annoys me. But he does a podcast with Stevie Richards, and he does a podcast with Dutch Mantel.
Oh,
and
I'll tell you what. Stevie Richards stuff has become unwatchable to me.
Is it because of Stevie Richards or because of his co-host?
A little bit of both, if we're going to be honest.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
It started the co-host, but I think he rubbed off too much on Stevie. And some of the recent Stevie takes have just not been appetizing to me.
Yeah. But so we are of an understanding of who it is I'm talking about.
Yeah. And I haven't seen him that much because those are not shows I really frequented. But yeah, I forget the guy's name. Yeah,
I don't remember his name either. But I watched some of those clips because I did want to get the understanding or the perspective, I should say, from Stevie Richards or Dutch Mantel. I did want to see what Maven's response was to something like this. And I watched another clip so I could see what JBL's response was, or some of the people in professional wrestling who are talking about this, because I've definitely heard from some of the MMA guys who are talking about this. So I just kind of wanted to see and hear what people's responses were. But the situation in question takes place at a Knox Pro Wrestling event where Quentin Rampage Jackson's son, Raja Jackson, is there on his own. He's there with, I guess, some people he knows, and he's there for the event. There is nothing that has been put out by either party, Knox Pro Wrestling or the Raja Jackson camp, that stated that he was there with the expressed intent of being a part of that show. If that narrative is out there, I'm not exactly sure where it's coming from because I haven't seen a single thing corroborating that. My understanding is that he was there at the show. That's all I know. He was there at the show. He was backstage or outside where they were, right, with all the other wrestlers. Raja apparently has his own camera crew that was following him, or there was a camera crew that was following him, right? He's backstage with the guys, and one of the wrestlers for Knox Pro Wrestling, Stuart Smith, he goes by Psycho Stu, was backstage, and either he was aware that his match was going to have some kind of angle. He was not aware that Raja Jackson, who is an MMA fighter, was A, Raja Jackson, and B, that he was not a professional wrestler. He was not aware of this. He was, I guess, of the mindset that when the camera crew came back there, they were working. And so he starts to work this angle where he stands up and he's talking to Raja Jackson, who's not paying attention to him at the time because he's not a part of whatever's happening. And he's like, you don't need to be worried about this guy, blah, blah, blah. You need to be worried about me. And Raja looks at him. He's looking back at Raja. And then he grabs what looks like a somewhat empty open beer can. And he hits him in the side of the head with it. Now, does it look like he hit him very hard with it? Not necessarily. But he definitely he tried to make it look good for the camera, right? Now, Raja doesn't really move for real. His head doesn't really move a lot. But he looks back at this guy, and Stu's response to him is, sir, you're not going to sell it? And then you see one of the guys who's sitting down grab Stu's arm, and it's like, yo, he's not a worker. So then there is a back and forth exchange, not necessarily two-way exchange. There's more Raja talking about, I don't play that type of stuff. And there's a guy or two in between them. Now, it's not like Stu is trying to advance on this guy, but Stu, I don't think at this moment is understanding that this is not part of the act. But he's shortly made aware that this dude's an MMA fighter. He's not a worker. This is not part of the act. Stu reaches his hand out to apologize. Raja doesn't take it. But through conversation and talking this through, there seems to be an understanding made that this was a misunderstanding, that Stu thought that this was part of the show. He thought that you were a worker and he was working. They shake hands at least 2 times. There might have been a possible third, but there's very much clarification that is made from Stu directly to Raja that I'm sorry. I did not realize that you weren't a worker. When I saw the cameras, I thought we were working. That it was a misunderstanding. Raja agrees and is like, yo, that's cool. I get it. Everything seems fine. Next thing we know, one of the guys backstage is like, well, this wasn't part of the show, but we're going to make it part of the show now. And we're going to have him run in on your match. Stu's like, cool. That's where it seems like everything should be fine. But then some dude in a cowboy hat, who's also a wrestler, is, in my opinion, let me not give you my opinion yet. He starts talking to Raja as they're walking through this corridor. And he's telling him, yeah, we're going to work it into the show, but, he should have known better that we don't hit people like that, even if, we are working, and that you should give him a receipt. You know what that is, right? And then Raja's like, yeah, as long as I get my lick back, I'm good. This guy does not understand that what we're not talking about is a fight. We're talking about wrestling, but this dude's not a wrestler. So fast forward, he's sitting next to the ring all night prior to Psycho Stu's match. He's in the Kick chat on his phone, and he's got a microphone there with him too, because he's actively on his chat with his community, and his community is gassing him up, and they are saying all kinds of things that are getting this dude fired up, and he's clearly angry about the situation, right? But when he was backstage, he was talking with some sense, and you can watch how he is gradually deteriorating over the course of the evening with his chat. So then the moment comes where he's supposed to do this run in, and he's told his chat that when he gets in the ring, he's going to hit this dude for real. And he's not going to stop punching him until somebody pulls him off. So he gets into the ring. Stu's got his back turned. He's in the middle of doing what he does as a professional wrestler. Raja comes up behind him. And when Stu is free of the other wrestler who he's interacting with, he turns around, Raja picks him up, has him slung over his shoulder, and proceeds to Alabama slam this guy right onto his head. He's unconscious. Second he hits the mat. Raja mounts him and proceeds to lay haymaker after haymaker for what the reports say 27 unabated shots to an unconscious man before someone steps in and pulls Raja off of him. Apparently, they're having to hold him back because Raja is attempting to go back and continue the assault. They end up getting Raja out of the ring, where the other wrestler who was wrestling Stu goes for the pin, and the referee counts to 3, which beyond me why you felt like the show needed to continue after that. But Raja leaves the place where they're wrestling, and he's still live streaming. And he's live streaming about what happened, and he gets a phone call from one of the guys that was there. I think it was the guy in the cowboy hat. And he was talking to him about how, yo, what are you doing? And he's like, I told you could slam him, but it's like, you went too far. Like, he's unconscious in the ring. You can't wake him up. And he's just like, my bad. He just made me mad, right? Then we cut to Roger walking down the street and he is just furious. He's just furious about people, I presume, people who are in the chat, because you see him in his chat before this whole incident happened. And for posterity's sake, folks, I'm just going to say some of the things he said. We don't normally curse a lot on this podcast, but he said he was tired of people calling him a bitch and saying all these things about him, and that he wasn't a bitch, and he was just sick and tired of people looking down on him, I guess. Now, I'm going to say this, Skeener, and then I'm going to hear your thoughts, and then we can kind of converse. One, this is the reason why I think I have grown a bit sour on having people who are not in professional wrestling in a professional wrestling ring. I know we talked about it before from the standpoint of like these gimmick matches and stuff like that. Even so recently as like with Jelly Roll, right? And that was a fine match. Nothing wrong with that. But I think for every Jelly Roll, you could have a situation like Travis Scott, who is blowing the eardrum out of someone because they don't know what they're doing. And I know these things may not happen all the time, but in my opinion, it adds so little to the act nowadays. Like, this is not the Rock and Wrestling Connection days anymore, right? We come off of SummerSlam where we were fed Cardi B hosting for months and months and months, and we get a minute and a half of her at the beginning of the first night, and that's it. And I'm sure they paid a buttload of money to have her on the show. It didn't add a lot of value to me at all, right? And the Jelly Roll match was fine, but then you see something like this, and I'm just like, as someone who enjoys professional wrestling, I would not be upset whatsoever if we just didn't do this type of stuff anymore. It's not necessary. Give these spots to people who do this, right? Who bleed for this, who sweat for this, who train for this, who do this. Give these spots to these people. I can understand from the Knox Pro Wrestling perspective, in a sense, that whoever's booking this, which seems to be some of the wrestlers themselves, right? All AEW style, that they are self-booking. And they took the opportunity that was presented in front of them to put someone who has a famous last name and a famous father into one of their matches to get eyeballs on the product. I understand that. But you're taking a hell of a risk putting someone in the ring who is not a wrestler, who does not do this, who's not trained for this, and further, has no concept of what it is that they're actually doing there. You know what I'm saying? Like, did no one clear this, that, hey, you realize that we're not actually like pro wrestling doesn't actually have people who are fighting each other for real. Like, I fail to understand or believe that Roger Jackson had no understanding of what professional wrestling was. And the fact that he drew a clear delineation between the fact that he was going to really tag the guy to his chat makes me think that he did understand the difference. And he made a decision to do it anyway. But what are your thoughts on this, Skeener? Because we're going to have some dialogue about this, but what are your thoughts?
Thoughts are numerous and probably going to be ineloquent and maybe underdeveloped at times, but I'll do my best to articulate kind of where I am on this. Want to start out and say, so just to add further like context and information. Obviously this wrestler, Psycho Stu, was unresponsive and hospitalized for, however long it's been now. He's still in the hospital. I do see that as of a couple hours ago, he has kind of woken up and been responsive. And I saw a picture of him like awake, alert, and smiling with presumably family, possibly friends.
Sure.
So good news there.
Good news there.
I know there was a GoFundMe started with like a very meager goal at first. I think it may have been like $5,000. And as we sit right now, it's like it's at 161,000 and counting. So
Yeah.
the public, wrestling and beyond wrestling, has kind of rallied around this guy, which is nice to see. It's not as nice to see that this is one of these times that wrestling transcends the wrestling bubble, so to speak.
True.
And, we've got another negative incident that, pushes wrestling into the mainstream in a negative light, which seems to happen a lot, but it is what it is in this case. Knox Pro Wrestling, where this happened, was, I believe, is owned or booked or whatever by Rikishi.
Yes, I think
correct?
he is. He has something
Okay.
to do with that promotion.
Yes. And so and they were like you said at the very beginning, something like a WWID school facility, essentially.
Yeah, WWEID.
Yeah, this program that WWE started to kind of essentially spotlight independent talent, be like, hey, we're tagging you, we're going to keep an eye on you, you're one to watch. At least that's how I took it. That was a school or promotion, whatever. I'm not exactly sure the inner workings, how it worked. Whatever. They were WWEID affiliated. I see now that as of earlier today, there's been no official statement, but Knox Pro Wrestling themselves have removed that from their branding. So they are no longer saying we are a WWEID affiliated school.
Yes,
so
from
I
what
think
from
the
what I hear,
writings on the wall is that they are WWE will be cutting ties with them over
from what
this,
I
which
hear,
is,
WWE has already done so, and that's why they removed it.
And understandable. And because it's just a complete failure of oversight, kind of like you said. Like, how is this guy allowed to get in the ring after the incident backstage? You feel like someone should have stepped up and be like, hey, if you're still feeling some type of way about that, like, let's let cooler heads prevail here, not go in there and give him a receipt. Like, that's a failure. That's just a gigantic failure to encourage that. And that's, WWE can't be associated or have their name with something. And I'm sure they don't want to be affiliated with, for lack of better terms, a sloppy shop like that. That's gonna let that stuff fly.
Sure.
It's also a very sad situation because I think, and sometimes obviously the actions, and like you said, that seemingly that Raja Jackson, what he chose to do and seemingly understood, hey, this is supposed to be quote unquote fake wrestling, but I'm going to go in there and really hit him. Like, he understood that was not what we were going to get in there and do, or what he was expected to do, supposed to do.
Right.
And yes, completely uncalled for, heinous, maybe legal criminal consequences for that. I don't know. I'm open to have that discussion on what I think could or would happen there, but I don't want to get dragged down there now. There's a part that's sad, and I feel bad that this young man did this, and it may not have happened if he wasn't performing and being encouraged in a way by the anonymous internet streaming audience. That gets to, and I think that's a big, I'm sure, I don't know if you ever watched Black Mirror. I'm sure there's a Black Mirror episode that almost would hit this to a T. And maybe I've seen one, maybe I've not, where you just get the faceless, anonymous internet mob encouraging, pushing, because there's that, that screen, that Black Mirror of separation between them and the reality that you are going to incite. And yes, there's still the personal responsibility that no one's responsible for telling this guy, hey, go, wail on this guy and don't let up. And, Raja Jackson himself still has to make the choice to do that. But that incitement, and that's just sad to me. That, like, because I don't know this young man, obviously. I have no idea what he's like. But it's sad to see situations like this play out where I think any part of it was caused by him being incited and given that feedback from that streaming audience to, hey, go do this. And you get hyped up and, yeah, I'm going to go do it. And he does. And you wonder how many people sit behind their screens like, oh, he went and did that.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know where and that's another like big discussion is where the responsibility lies for there. But it's a, like I said, it's a complete oversight failure by this promotion, by letting this stuff go on from everyone involved. It's sad. And it's just a tragedy in its own way beyond, someone who had very real consequences in Psycho Stu physically and probably mentally and career-wise. And beyond that, it's just sad that somehow was allowed to play out.
Yes, absolutely. It absolutely was, man. Like, on the wrestling side of things, I think you just had so many bad decisions, dereliction of responsibility at so many different points in this story that this could have been prevented.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
You don't let someone in the ring and participate in such a physically demanding way, which requires tons of practice and choreography between the people who are professionals to not hurt each other, right? To put someone in the ring who is not trained in this particular match to even know what your spots are going to be, right? To put them into a match and just go crazy. Like, even if what you said was, hey, all I want you to do is just pick them up and slam them down, right? Dude, you've got to slam someone the right way, lest you could break someone's neck. Because clearly he drops this dude right on the back of his head, right? Even if that was all he did, if that video ended right there and he got out of the ring after that, he would have just dropped him and left him unconscious. You knocked someone unconscious because you did not deliver a slam in a way that you do with professional wrestling that would protect someone. If you watch Stu's body language when he gets picked up, he's working. He's about to take this move in the way that you would take a back body bump on an Alabama slam, right?
Yeah, you could tell he's like positioning himself.
Yes, he's not expecting to get dumped on his head, right? That's an oversight of the company, right? For putting someone in a position to be hurt that way. You could say, oh, well, Stu may hold some accountability because why would you get in the ring with someone who's untrained? Fair assessment. At the end of the day, if Stu is not the organizer of this promotion, if he's not the person who's running the show, then the buck does not stop with him. The buck stops with the promoter, and the promoter should have done something, right? If you were going to work some angle with him, you need to make it very clear with him what it is that he's supposed to do. And you certainly don't put him in a position where he's doing high risk maneuvers, right? That he's not trained to do. You just don't do that, right? But then you have old boy in a cowboy hat. I mean, what better way to throw dysfunction and sow the seeds of non-cohesion, right? Than to have it all play out on live stream for everyone to see that your wrestlers don't take care of each other, that you think that Stu is this and Stu is that and that he's stupid and that he should get a receipt. You should not be promoting that to anyone who's not inside your wrestling bubble. The whole idea of a receipt is a wrestling insider thing. You don't serve those up to people who are non-wrestlers. I don't know why you're breaking that in, but if I'm making my personal opinions a part of this, I think old cowboy guy in the chaps was fanboying a bit over the fact that this was Rampage Jackson's son and that you're kind of buddying up with him. Oh, no, I wouldn't take that if I were you. That's some loser behavior, but that's all speculation. That's just the vibe I got off of him because he seemed to be sticking way too close to somebody who's not that famous. But I digress. The whole situation backstage, you could say Stu should not have assumed that he was a worker. Okay, that's fair. But I also see his vantage point. Whether or not I agree with it is irrelevant. I could see how someone could think that in that moment. Now, if Raja was so upset by that, and let's say he got hit with that beer can and then he turned around and hauled off on it and hit him, right? Would I have in that moment thought that Stu might have had that coming? Maybe. You don't just assume that people are, wrestlers because they're backstage and then just go off the cuff and do something. Fair enough. But the fact that it was made very clear after the fact that this guy's not a worker, that Stu apologized multiple times, right? And very candidly, right? Explained the situation and why he thought what he thought. This was not a situation, guy who hosts a podcast with Stevie Richards and Dutch Mantel. This was not a situation where he was just joking around, I guess just doing wrestling stuff backstage. I guess they do. You stupid idiot. You watched the same video that I did. How do you infer these things that are very clearly shown in a video unless you're not paying attention? This is what bugs me about people who are so wrapped up in the wrestling zeitgeist sometimes that it's like, how do you consume and not consume? I don't understand it. You watch the same video that I watched, right? If you understand the idea that he apologized to Raja 3 different times, that he explained that he thought it was a work, how is he just joking around and messing around backstage? Is these type of editorialized gaps in people's logic? I don't know. Maybe your frontal lobe is not working correctly, right? But this is how things get messed up in the media because people don't convey what the story is clearly based on how it's actually being shown. But enough about him. Raja Jackson, I don't know what his deal is, but his behavior in this situation, whether it was coerced by his kick chat, which I agree with you, it's sad that we live in a culture right now where so many instances of vile behavior, violence, deplorable acts are being encouraged by people online, and that the anonymity of the internet seem to provide people with an avenue and an outlet to just be horrible. And they've always done that, right? But we're in a space right now where the live streaming community is almost becoming accessory to crimes, right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, how do you not charge people as like a co-conspirator if you're paying money to encourage people to do violence? Like, this is dark web stuff that we used to hear about when we were younger.
Yeah, that's why I said, like, this is like, we're getting into like Black Mirror territory in real life.
No, I hear you.
Like, it's
right. Because this is the type of stuff that used to live in the rumor mills that people would talk about that happened on the dark web. Right. But it's like, it's happening in Kick Chat. It's happening on Twitch streams. You heard about that guy who died on a Twitch stream recently?
I may not. No, probably not.
He died on Twitch stream after like not sleeping for like 11 days or something. And
well, yeah. I mean, we really are getting into Black Mirror episodes.
Yeah, and it's like he's on the chat and I guess he lived in a house or a residence or something that was owned or operated by these 2 other Twitch streamer guys. And they treated him like crap and they abused him a lot and they streamed it a lot. And of course, you just have people up there who are just eating this shit up, right? And they're encouraging this behavior and all of these things. And then they sleep deprive this guy and they're just encouraging it. And then he died on live stream. And it's like, when you have paying patrons who are in these chats, right? Who are paying money for different types of super chat formats on different platforms, right? And they're encouraging this behavior, right? We are skirting dangerously close to a place where, you know, if our government was functioning in a way that cared about these things, we would be getting people put in positions where legislation is coming down because something needs to happen, right? But in this Raja Jackson situation, yeah, it's sad. It's sad that this chat goaded this man and revved him up. And when you can see it, when you watch the video, right? He goes through these clear escalations of anger as the night goes on that's fueled by the chat, and the chat calling him a bitch and the chat telling him that he ain't gonna really crash out. That's the craziest form of toxic masculinity that I've ever seen, right? Is this idea that I'm gonna prove to you, Skeener, that I'm not a fake crash out. WTF are we talking about?
Yeah, and I think maybe it's how old is Raja?
I think he's like between 21 and 22, something he's in his early 20s.
25.
Okay, early 20s.
So I think this is like a small, like, it's just like a lucky for us in a way, like generational gap, that it's so, that the screen is reality.
Yeah.
And that internet presence, like, they can't walk away from it. And the performance aspect of being live, and when you react in a way they want you to, they give you what you want. And it's just so conditioned and lizard brain stuff. But, like, yes, at the end of the day, I'm not shirking Raja Jackson of responsibility for this, as he still had to make the choice to act in the way he did. But again, like you're saying, like, you get goaded and you get that reward and dopamine cycle, and with someone that obviously already is prone to act in a certain way. I'm not going to sit here and diagnose him mentally with anything, but you couple that, it just seems like a bad recipe to me.
Oh, I agree.
Really, really poor recipe.
It's a very, very bad recipe, and it showed itself, you know what I'm saying, that day at that event. And I think that, at some point you've got to start holding live streams and chats like that accountable for the things that they do. Because if this was happening in person and there was a crowd of people that were encouraging him to keep punching an unconscious man, right? I can almost guarantee you the police would have walked out of there with more than one person in handcuffs. I could almost guarantee that. Like, you can't incite violence in that way, right? Yes, there's freedom of speech, right? But there's also incendiary speech, or the type of speech that is, I forget the term right now.
It's been a while. This was never my area.
Yeah.
But obviously this is some of the stuff you get in law school. It's the test for speech. It's incitement to violence is what's not protected. And the speech that's incitement, I think the phrasing is, must be directed or intended to produce imminent lawless action and be likely to produce such action. So you'd have some good arguments with the crowd. I don't know. It's a touchier area than I think the way you're describing it you think it is. You will never get it from someone on the internet. I think the good delineation is that if these people were not shielded by the anonymity of the internet and the physical removal from what they are doing, that there will always be a disconnect, that even if you are seeing this happen live, you're not there in that space, in that building. Sure. That some of these people would be much less likely to encourage that action if they were sitting beside him in a chair and watching it probably play out, than they are sitting behind a screen and saying it.
Now, see, here's the thing, and I hear you on that, right? So then this is I guess where I'm a little confused, right? Mm-hmm. So I understand what it is that you're saying, and I get the idea of incitement to violence, right? And there has to be some sort of clear acknowledgement that what it is that you are saying or doing is going to incite someone to do something that is illegal, right? Or do something that's violent that is illegal, right? But when you have Raja on his stream and he tells them,
that's
when
where
I get in the ring,
yeah, you have a good case,
right? I'm going to hit him for real, and I'm not going to stop until they pull me off of him, right? Any reasonable person can understand what assault is, right? And it's not within the confines of this performance. He's making that very clear. And for people to continue to goad him into this behavior. And the thing I pointed out earlier, which was, it sounded kind of, I was talking about the toxic masculinity thing. To me, that is the biggest sign, in my opinion, that, like, I would consider this as it's somewhat incitement, is when he's describing a crash out, right? And they're telling him he's just a fake crash out. He's going to fake crash out. And then he's like, oh, I'm going to show you I'm not a fake crash out. And then you still continue to goad him, right? Like, even if we don't go that route, right? Let's leave the internet folks in their anonymity, which is terrible, but whatever. At the end of the day, you're absolutely right. And I agree with you 1,000,000%. Raja Jackson, at the end of the day, is responsible for Raja Jackson's actions. You got in that ring with the premeditated intent on assaulting him in a way that he was not expecting, and that you were going to continue to assault him until people pulled you off of him. You knew that this was not some sanctioned MMA event. You knew that what you were about to do was not a part of the show. And you went in there and you did what you did. I cannot see a world where this guy should not go to prison. At very least, he should be getting charged with what? Aggravated assault at the least?
Depend on, I don't know, California law.
Sure.
Aggravated in this context refers to there will be a defined list of factors or circumstances that elevate it from assault to aggravated assault. So using a baseball bat may elevate it from assault to aggravated assault. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I think this guy should be charged. In my little world, this man would go to prison for some amount of time for a dangerous assault that he committed. He was intending to do grievous harm to this man, or at least had no regard for what harm he could do
right
in these actions, and showed a lack of malice. And this wasn't in defense of himself, or even, not that it would have been justified to do this, but the situation legally is probably different if he does this right after he's hit in the head with a beer can, not hours after, where it becomes, I'm going to wait for my opportunity,
right,
when this guy is not expecting this to do this.
Right.
Now, I highly doubt he will do time for this.
Okay.
He could, and again, this is not my area.
Sure,
I know
sure.
it's incredibly hard. Not my area, definitely not now, and never was. Even though I did some criminal cases, I was never dealing with things like this.
Sure.
It's so weird because it's wrestling. And all the things I know about this come from sports that are non-predetermined competitions where people aren't working with each other. So it's hard to charge someone, like, say, two football players get in a fight after a play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's out of the game, and that's not out of the game. But there's criminal law, and even, there's some bars to getting a civil remedy. If we were playing football, after the play, I completely blindside you and stomp on your leg. That's way beyond the game. That's not expected, not intended. I'm not going to go to jail. You're probably not going to be able to sue me, because even at that point, they're like, it's football. It's kind of likely that someone may lose their shit and do that. I don't know how much of that is going to play in here. I mean, it's going to be interesting from a legal perspective, because you have all these different factors of, one, it's now wrestling. It's predetermined. This is, for the things we're talking about, closer to a play than a basketball game or something.
Sure.
He's using such excessive force. It's become, unlike our example with the football game where I get mad after a play, this is premeditated for hours with an online live streamed record of it being premeditated. It's my gut, and this isn't based really on anything when I say, or like, it's not a heavy legal analysis, it's not legal experience. It's my gut that tells me he's not going to do any jail time. I think he'll be charged with something. They'll get a plea down to something. I would bet Psycho Stu is probably going to decline to participate in any criminal charges. Doesn't mean they won't bring them. The myth about the victim has to press charges is not a real thing. Like, the reason that normally happens is, in some assault cases, the only evidence the state will have is the testimony of the victim. That is certainly not the case here.
Certainly not.
As we have it all on live video streamed around the world. I just don't, for better or worse, I don't see anything huge coming of this legally. It's just a black stain on it. Now, that said, just because I predict that, it's not going to shock me if something happens, because it's so egregious.
Yeah.
And it's so newsworthy, and so many people will be calling for their pound of flesh, essentially. But it's just, we'll see. I mean, it's sticky, it's touchy. I could argue both sides for you, essentially, and I'm glad I have to argue neither.
Yeah.
When it really matters.
No, I dude, I hear you. I think just my opinion, and you know, we can wrap after this, but I think just for me, man, I feel like the egregious nature of this, the premeditated aspect of it, the fact that, like you said, this is not a sporting event, right? So because this is more like a play, because this work is choreographed, right? There's no expectation here that there's no expectation here that the actions that take place in the ring are intended to be out of the script. So for him to come into the match, whether it was planned that he was supposed to come in the ring or not, does not remove the criminality of the actions that he committed because they were happening within the confines of a match. What I think about are all of the shenanigans, I'll say, that used to happen back in the early days of the Attitude Era, right? Where women were in bra and panties matches and the king was shouting puppies all the time, right? There was a level of acceptable misogyny and sexism that was baked into the product, right? But at no point would it have ever been acceptable for Sable and Jacqueline to be having their little bikini showdown that everyone remembers, right? And for whoever was in the ring with them when, what was it? Sable took her top off and she had like her handprints.
Yes.
Okay.
Sable did that.
At no point would it have been acceptable for whoever was in the ring judging that to walk up and grab her boob. At no point would have that been acceptable. And no one would have sat there and it wouldn't have been a situation where she could not have pressed charges against this person. That is sexual assault. Whether or not it was happening within the confines of a bikini showdown in the middle of Attitude Era pro wrestling does not absolve what it is that just happened in the ring. That was outside of the confines of what was ever agreed upon.
So it should be that way. You've got my head. Yeah, now you've got my head thinking about this. Like I think you'd have a harder time depending on, like, you're saying Jerry Lawler's judging the contest and goes up and does that.
Yes, like Jerry Lawler's in the ring.
You may have a hard time
and they're unrobing, and she unrobes, and Jerry Lawler like, oh my gosh, puppies, and then he goes up and reaches behind and squeezes her boobs.
I think that would be a horrible thing for him to do, and I would not morally absolve it, but I think you'd have a hard time sending him to jail for that. Not because of, that's not my thoughts that I think shouldn't, I think wouldn't. I think that would be a tough one. I'm just thinking of all the avenues you have to argue that the Jerry Lawler character may be expected to do. I don't know. I don't know. This is more me playing around with the legal aspects in my mind.
And I'm no lawyer, but I think a lot this way as well, right? And I'm just thinking, if there's no precedent, right, that has been set. For that to be an expectation, I don't know how one would justify that particular type of behavior in a bikini contest. You know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't fit within the confines of a bikini contest, and it doesn't fit within the confines of the product itself. Like, even in the product itself, you didn't see people grabbing boobs. Like, you know what I'm saying? For real, in the product. So for that to be something that just happened, I mean, I get what you're saying though, right?
This is a crazy hypothetical. I love this.
It's a crazy hypothetical, but I think it's one that wrestling fans who are not familiar with, maybe with the Knox Pro situation that happened, would understand if they were fans during the Attitude Era. Because essentially what we've got is a similar situation, right? Where you've got a match going on, someone comes into the ring who is supposed to be part of what the interaction is, right? And totally steps outside the bounds of what you're supposed to be doing in this situation, right? I was thinking about a bunch of these things, right? Like, I was thinking about When they bring the freaking Make-A-Wish people onto the onto the stage, or they give people the little honorary awards or something like that, right? And you bring them up there, and then, I don't know, one of the dudes or the ladies turns around and kicks Byron in the nuts. It sounds stupid, but I'm reaching for the stupid things that seem so absurdly outside of what's expected in this situation. Because the way Raja reacted in that situation and what he did was so far out the pale of what is expected in that situation, right?
So here's the thing. The thing is, and this is almost a cop-out, but it's so unique in terms of this happening in wrestling, us having clear evidence of his intent to do what he did, him saying he's going to do what he did. It's so unique. I don't think there's a precedent for this set of facts legally.
True.
So I think this will be a new standard set, whatever happens.
I agree.
Because you just have so many different factors.
I agree.
At play here that are very, very unique.
I agree. And I think that you will have a precedent set here. And the last thing I'll say about this, though, is Raja Jackson, unlike a police officer who is in a new situation, does not have qualified immunity. So he's not going to get off on it because it's a new situation that they haven't had to legally try before. If they legally try this and they find out that no, based on the totality of the evidence, right, and the situation has played itself out, that dude, no, this was premeditated assault. You knew what it was that you were doing. You went in and you executed what you said you were going to do. This was not part of the show. You went and you assaulted this man and you knew what you were going to do, right? He doesn't have qualified immunity. You going to jail, boo. You going to jail and you're going to have to take that L. And they'll have this precedent set next time. So when it happens down the line, we won't have as much to try and, sift through.
I'm gonna hope this doesn't happen down the line.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Because we've had wrestlers quote unquote shoot on people and hurt them before, but that's been wrestler to wrestler. This
Agreed.
is a non-wrestler being invited to. I'm not going to recap the whole situation, but it's so crazy, so crazy.
It is
so crazy, so sad. I think if Psycho Stu sued him civilly, he would 100% get all the money he wanted for this.
Oh, he absolutely should do that. He should not be forced to pay for his own medical bills. He didn't do that to himself.
That I think is 100%.
Yeah, I think he absolutely should do that.
Criminally, I think, again, my personal opinion is that this man committed an act that I think required a lack of judgment, a lack of self-control, and the ability to either disconnect from what he's doing or to be cold to causing harm to another human being, that he should be punished and or rehabilitated. And in that sense, should go to prison for some amount of time. I still lean he won't, but that's not because I don't think he should.
I hear you. I am in agreement with you in the fact that I think that Stu and his family should absolutely sue civilly, because he should not be on the hook for the medical bills that he's going to have to go through, the rehab he's going to have to go through. That dude's going to have some surgeries, right? Like what I heard, he had the majority of his teeth knocked down his throat. He's fractured bones in his face, right? It's going to take a lot of rehab. He's not going to be able to do a lot of things, right? And we don't know the severity of those injuries yet. It just hasn't been reported. So he should not have to pay for his medical bills. Rampage and his family got enough money to take care of this dude, and they should absolutely do it because he did not do it to himself. So civilly, absolutely. For me, criminally, I think he should. I do not think that Stu should sit on his hands in this situation. He should press those criminal charges because it's all on tape, right? I think that it would be an open and shut case. In my opinion, I think there may be some gray areas that you'd have to sift through, but nothing that video is not going to clear up. Whatever confusion may have been, it's not going to disprove the fact that A, he was egged on by that dude in the cowboy hat. B, he was egged on by his chat. C, he knew exactly what he was going to do and said he was going to do it. And then he went into the ring and he executed it. And there was a video that was released earlier today with Rampage and Raja responding, right? And Raja shows zero remorse. He blames the cameraman. He blames the cameraman for not turning the camera off. And it's a shame that the whole world's seeing it. No remorse.
Well, that to me means and that's where I think that's because when it comes down to it, that video was a frightening in a way that there's a human being that could so callously do that.
Yes.
In that situation. It's one of those things that is, as you get older, like we unfortunately are every day, you're like, damn, that is out there.
Yeah.
And sometimes I don't like that much of the hard, scary reality of the world mixed in with wrestling that is supposed to be the absolute opposite of that.
Yeah, I agree, dude. And I think the thing that makes it the hardest, at least for me, right, is this betrayal of trust. I think that's what makes it hurt worse. To see that violence, it makes the violence sting more. It's that even though Raja is not a wrestler, in that moment, Stu thought that they had squashed whatever it is that was backstage. They were going to turn it into a cool angle, right? And when he gets picked up, he is in a trusting position, and that trust is betrayed. And when he gets slammed to the mat and he's knocked unconscious, right? It's trust betrayed in that moment between him and Raja. It's trust betrayed between Stu and that dude in the cowboy hat that's supposed to be your coworker, but is quietly instigating a situation that should not be being handled by someone who's not a professional wrestler, right? It's a betrayal of trust from Knox Pro Wrestling, who apparently, according to some of the wrestlers from Knox, who they did some video last night. It was 4 of them. And the guy who ended up separating them initially, I think he probably had pink hair or something like that. He was in the video.
Yeah.
He was in the video, and he was talking about how Knox Pro Wrestling told them to not cooperate with the authorities when the authorities come asking questions. It's a total betrayal of trust by the organization that's supposed to be looking out for you. And that was what he said. And I'm echoing this guy's sentiments. He was like, I'm your biggest draw in this company. So how do I move forward in trust with you all? I'm paraphrasing here. How do I move forward in trust with you guys, knowing that at any moment something could go on in the ring that puts me or people who I'm working with in danger, and you're just going to try to cover it up. You're just going to try to brush it under the rug, or you're not going to want people to do the right thing. I'm thinking about Stu, and it's this is such a betrayal of trust on so many different situations. And it's sad because this guy was dealing with PTSD from his time in the service. He talked about it, right? And so now you go into this space that was helping you to rehabilitate through your PTSD and assimilate into civilian life. That's why you got into it. And then you have a betrayal of trust at this point in your life on so many different levels. It's sad. It's sad for Stu. It makes me, as a viewer of this, sad at the state of our culture when it comes to how social media interacts with our everyday lives. The callousness of people, not just Raja, but the people in this chat, the people who were live streaming with the dude who died on Twitch. It's just a sad state of dystopian affairs that is disgusting. And I think that's why this was harder for me to watch than seeing senseless acts of violence, because that's the whole point of it. It's senseless. I can't make sense of it, but I can make sense of this. And I'm clearly seeing the wheels in motion at every step of this process because he live streamed the whole thing. It's just sad.
It's sad and dystopian are two very, very good words to sum it up, I think. At least in the terms we've talked about it in.
I agree. But hey, look, this is what we do here. You know what I mean? I am extremely thankful to have you as a friend, Skeens. And I'm thankful that you do this podcast with me. And I'm thankful that we have a space as friends, first and foremost, but also as professional wrestling fans, that we can talk about these things in a way that is substantial, that is real, and my God, is not so wrapped up in the pro wrestling zeitgeist that you trip over your own feet in an attempt to make real statements and sound like a real human being. I will never have forgiveness for wrestling outlets who do such a terrible job at being real people. I know you're a real human being. I see your face. You resemble the thing that I am. But when the words come out of your mouth, I fail to see and sense a real human being in some of the things that you say. I get where you're coming from, but if you have such a big platform, you have more of a responsibility to yourself and to the people who listen to your podcast or listen to your videos to get the information as right as possible. Separate your editorialized views for after you get the story straight. And I'm not saying you got to quote it verbatim, but I mean, if you're watching the same stuff that I'm watching, pay attention. Like, let's just not cast a narrative that is not accurate. And if you don't get it right, because I'm not perfect, at least admit that you were wrong and correct the record. Get it right. But you who are listening will always be able to count on myself and Andrew coming to this space and having real conversations and real talk with smart takes, because this is what the Lariat Lounge is. We are pro wrestling fans who love professional wrestling, and we're going to give it to you as straight and as honest as we possibly can. Skeena, please let our friends know where they can let their friends know to come and listen to this podcast if they want to get something that, in my honest opinion, is just a hair above the quality of product that you can get anywhere else on the internet.
All our friends currently listening to this, please let your friends know that the Lariat Lounge is coming at you once a week, at least every week, in this podcast audio format on all your favorite platforms, YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, anywhere else you like to listen to your shows. We're over on Instagram at the Lariat Lounge Podcast, always throwing stories up, polls, questions. Always feel free to DM us anything, thoughts on the show, thoughts on wrestling, thoughts on life, whatever you want to talk about. We're happy to hear it. If social media is not your thing, send us an email at thelariatlounge@gmail.com. Happy to have you there. Inbox is open. Please reach out and get involved. We're always happy to hear from our listeners, and it brightens our day when we do. So please reach out.
Absolutely, guys. We love hearing from you. We love the interaction, and we want you to interact more. The next space that you can interact with us is on Sunday during Clash in Paris. We will be on Lariat Lounge live on YouTube starting whenever that show starts. What is it, 3 on Sunday?
2 p.m. Eastern, I believe.
2 p.m. Okay, 2 p.m. Eastern on Sunday. So join us for Lariat Lounge Live, where you and me can hang out, and we will be chatting with everyone, and we will be eating pizza, and we'll be enjoying professional wrestling. And if there's anything that you guys want to talk about and share it with us, we'll be more than happy to talk it out with you guys, because we love doing this with you. So from myself, your host, Everson Godfrey, and co-host Andrew Skeens, this has been another edition of the Lariat Lounge. Please watch yourself on the way out.